Thank you all for being here today. Today we're going to be discussing some technology expansions here in the Old Town area and just another rollout, a general phase in the area. And we'll talk about those expansion zones. Today you'll be hearing from Mayor Keller, Chief Harold Medina, Will Duran, who is with Metro Security, Jennifer Turner, who is with our Department of Municipal Development, JJ Mancini, who is a community member in the area, as well as Pete Casetas, who is a community member. With that, I will turn it over to Mayor Keller.
All right. Well, good afternoon, Old Town, and especially to all our merchants here and some of our property owners and some residents who've trickled in. You know, you all have never given up on Old Town, and we also never forget how special and how important this place is for our city. And I just want to share a couple of things before we get started. Number one, I do just want to acknowledge and take a moment. We lost a police officer, as you may know, a couple of days ago. She was off duty. It was a hit and run, and her body is being transported this afternoon to the funeral home. And we just want to express our condolences, and our hearts are with their family right now. They are, as you would expect, absolutely grieving and in a very difficult spot. And so they do need our prayers. And our community needs to also help remind them how important their daughter and their wife was to us, as she'd been on the department a couple of years. She's a big softball player for those folks in the softball community. So we're thinking of her this afternoon, especially as we talk about public safety. Now, I also want to mention too, just as a side note, you know, I think for everyone who lives in Albuquerque, we're aware of Old Town. We know it exists. I also know that, you know, I was born and raised here, and one of the amazing things any mayor will tell you is you get to spend a lot of time in Old Town. And so it is, I think, an amazing sort of piece of the fabric that makes our city go, but it's also one that we often don't acknowledge enough, and often, frankly, that we sometimes take for granted. And so today we're here to make sure that we do not do that we appreciate you. We remind everyone also, this is a vibrant place, especially during the day. Actually, business is pretty good in Old Town, and it's been moving up steadily since COVID. What we've got to work on, though, are some serious challenges that predominantly actually happen in the middle of the night. That's the issue. Now, I also want to mention, because we have a kind of, admittedly, a little bit of a confusing press conference today, because two ideas came together at the same time. So we're also giving you a preview of some of the things we're announcing tomorrow at the State of the City. And so, because some of the changes we're making here in Old Town, we're actually making in other parts of the city. So that's just kind of a preface to explain what we're going to go over today. So let me begin by saying that first and foremost, our city continues to invest in modern crime-fighting technology. And this is extremely important because we know we don't have an officer everywhere at 4 a.m. We wish that we did, but we don't. And wonderfully, there is an answer to that challenge. And it has to do with technology, especially cameras, but it also has to do with civilianizing our patrols. And so we're going to talk about that here today. So let me begin with Old Town. First and foremost, we are expanding our gunshot detection program into Old Town. Now, this is obviously important with respect to guns, but it also is a massive signal. We know that actually criminal elements figure out roughly where ShotSpotter is, and they stay away. We have seen significant crime drops wherever ShotSpotter is, and so we had been planning to put it in Old Town, and now we're sharing that publicly. To my point about some things we're announcing tomorrow, we are also expanding it to Uptown. You've heard that, but we're also expanding it to Nob Hill in some of the areas around the university, and we're also expanding it around Cottonwood, which is where Cibola High School is. So there are some other expansion areas, but the point is our city is now going to be covered. A quarter of our city is going to have gunshot detection. That is extremely important for catching people who shoot a firearm. And unfortunately, right, all too often, actually take someone's life. So we're doubling the size of that ShotSpotter footprint. Now, relatedly, we're also adding in a host of almost, let's say, dozens, not quite 100, of new security and APD cameras. I know many of the merchants here have cameras on their business. I talked to the gentleman from Cook's Cameras just the other day after the fire, and know that you send us all your footage and we appreciate that. Keep doing that, right? The challenge we have now is getting cameras that are tied into a real-time crime center, so we can actually prevent or we can catch that person much faster. Now, I know that costs money. And so we're going to do two things. One is we're going to put up some of APD's own cameras in this area. Number two is we're going to try and work with you to subsidize transitioning some of your older analog systems. We've had this problem all over actually the city, and we just have to have a certain level, right, of technology to make it line up with ours. But what we announced a week ago, which is applicable to all of you, is that we will help pay for it. We will partner with you to make sure that you get that. This is also a massive deterrent. People are figuring out where the cameras work, they don't go. And so why not make that Old Town? And so that's another piece of what we're sharing today. Relatedly, all over the city, we're doing this in different hotspots in the city, and we're also considering speed cameras. I know that typically hasn't been the issue right here, but just to honor what we're going to share tomorrow, we sent down to council a contract to double the number of speed cameras in our city. And we also know that speeding is way down where we have these speed cameras. Now, there's all sorts of information with respect to how many tickets and who pays them and all of this. But the point is safety. That is the point. And it has been absolutely clear that wherever these cameras go up, our streets are safer. That's why we want to double the number of cameras. I will tell you this too. We thought when we rolled this out, people would complain about getting speeding tickets. And I know some people do. But remember, the camera is sort of blind. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're an elected official. It doesn't matter if you're, anything. If you're going over 10 miles an hour, you're going to get that ticket. And you can also do community service instead of pay a fine. So we're going to continue all that. But what it is doing is it's holding us accountable, right? And I know, look, there are people in city departments and mayor's office. I mean, we all have such a speeding problem. Everyone has experienced this. And that is why I want to credit our community to say, you know what, that's on us, right? You give us a ticket for doing what we're doing, you're right. We should get that ticket. And now what every neighborhood wants is a camera near their busy street. And so ironically, the most requests by far we have gotten in this program is please bring one of those cameras to a street racing street near us. So we are doing that starting in the fall, of course, subject to council approval. Now, the last thing I want to mention brings it right back to Old Town. I mentioned civilians. We are trying to use a layered approach to law enforcement in our city because we know that it doesn't always take, right, an officer with a badge and a weapon. And we also know that's why we created our community safety department to deal with a lot of our behavioral health and mental health issues. But in this case, we have the museum right there. This is technically a city park. We have Tigway Park right across. And so we are now going to have coordinated, integrated, layered patrols. So there will be APD patrols at night, but there will also be civilian patrols by our GSD security team. And again, it does send a signal that like we're watching. And so we've had tremendous success at our city facilities doing that. So now we're just going to widen the perimeter and make it include Old Town, which is a great way to leverage our resources and also appreciate the folks who do this work each and every day. A lot of them are standing over there under the tree. They're the folks who also are going to be patrolling late night. So with more on this, we certainly want to hear from the experts behind each and every one of these initiatives. So let me start with our Chief of Police, Harold Medina. Chief.
And thank you, Mayor, and thank you everybody from Old Town who's out here supporting and listening to what we're going to do to help change and make things better for everybody in this area. It's no doubt that throughout the city we have issues with some of our populations, the excessive use of fentanyl, and criminal damage. Quite frankly, that's the biggest complaint I get right now is sometimes the criminal damage caused by individuals who are under the influence of fentanyl. We know that it affects our businesses, but I think the one positive thing I want to bring about this is everybody came together rather quickly after this. APD heard the request loud and clear, and we are bringing resources to help Old Town. During the last couple of days, I had 2 video camera trailers moved into the area, which will be assisting. As Mayor said, as a team, we could accomplish more than as an individual, and we have other city departments that are going to be assisting us with patrol, and the rank and file within the Valley Area Command know that in the evening hours, frequent patrol of Old Town is going to be a necessity along with other parts. But I think that we got to remember that we're one Albuquerque and that we need to build everything together. What Mayor's talking about is some of the technology that we're building around the city that we hope to continue to make Albuquerque a safer place. ShotSpotter has been a game changer for the Albuquerque Police Department. We've utilized it to identify areas where multiple shots are being fired, and through a new program, outreach in those neighborhoods have already shown a 25% reduction in shots being fired into those areas. We also know that ShotSpotter has assisted us in responding to shots fired calls, prosecuting cases. And just 2 days ago, I was at an event where DA Bregman was talking, and he said a number that shocked me. 257 individuals that have been prosecuted for homicide in the last few years by his office. And the vast majority of those individuals prosecuted were cases that were built by the Albuquerque Police Department and presented for prosecution. Our clearance rate remains one of the highest in the nation. Right now, we've cleared more homicides than we've had in the city of Albuquerque. And the number one factor to that is the technology that has been adopted by the Albuquerque Police Department. Actually, there's two good reasons, and the leadership and the way that our detectives are working hard to bring justice to some of these families. So we want to continue to advance our technology across the city. We want to use places like Old Town to show that we can make places safer, make places better, and work more hand in hand with the community. You have my commitment. These two video trailers will stay here until we have permanent cameras up. I know there's obstacles with fiber optic and other things that are outside of the control of the police department, but I know other city departments have already stepped up and said they may have already found some options that we'll be able to use to get cameras up even more quicker than waiting for optics. So we want to continue this advance of technology. One of the other things I want to talk about is not only are we expanding ShotSpotter, and we learned the need to hit some of our busiest areas. It was a priority for me and Mayor to get it into the university area for a variety of reasons. Old Town for a variety of reasons. Around our shopping districts, Uptown, Cottonwood Mall for a variety of reasons, and the information that it brings us. But another big part of our success has been license plate readers and being able to find vehicles when we need to. We're adding approximately, I believe, 50 more license plate readers across the city, and there will be some in the area of Old Town and Sawmill, so that we could identify criminals. Because the one thing we've learned over the years, the stolen automobile is the means of transportation for everybody who's committing crime in this city, it seems. We have them related to homicides, we have them related to burglaries, we have them related to other property crimes. So being able to quickly identify that stolen motor vehicles are in the area of Old Town is going to be key for us. We're also placing them on garbage can trucks. There'll be 5 units placed on garbage can trucks, because I know no city vehicle drives the streets more each week than a solid waste truck. Better learn to use my terminology proper all the time. But it is important that we make sure that we do everything we can to bring these resources, leverage technology to our benefit. So like stated earlier, I encourage Old Town to continue to work with our leadership from the Valley Area Command. They notified me of this, and we were immediately able to get them resources. And I want to thank everybody who worked in this. We had a lot of different individuals who worked together, communicated information to me, from some of our state legislators to some of our local business people, even though some of them are former state police chiefs and called us. But we had a lot of people who came together, communicated, and at the end of the day, it's that communication and working together that's going to help us all solve the problems and get over some of the obstacles that we're all facing day in and day out. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief, and I'm so glad you mentioned license plate readers, because I forgot to. But that is the connection, right? The triangulation of the gunshot detection, the camera, and license plate readers. This is why our police department, it was not always the case until a couple of years ago. When people steal a car, when they commit a violent crime, we catch them. And it's the triangulation of those three things and hard work from our officers. Now, also, before we bring up our next folks, do want to mention all the things that we just shared with you are in many ways about collective One Albuquerque investment and collaboration across governments. So I'm grateful that, the funding that we use to buy these things, first and foremost, comes from City Council, which of course our City Councilor is here, Joaquin Baca. Thank you for representing Old Town. It comes from our state legislature, and I know we have Representative Martinez's team is here. So we're grateful for that. We can't do this just as a city. And some of it also comes from the governor. And so we're grateful for that too. It's just a good reminder that we may have differences here and there, but when it comes to standing up for Albuquerque, we always work together, and we are absolutely going to continue to do that going forward. And I look forward to much more of that to come. Now, to highlight a little more about some of these specific issues and plans, I'm going to bring up some city staff who work on this, and then we're going to close things out with some community members. But let's begin with our Deputy Director in charge of Metro Security, former Sergeant and now Deputy Director, Will Duran.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor said, I was former APD. I was a homicide sergeant. Metro Security is excited to be part of this multi-layered approach. As the Mayor said, you don't have to have an officer with a gun and a badge to prevent crime. We already have resources in the area. So the city of Albuquerque owns this park, right? So this is a park. I have over 100 officers who are committed and loyal to the city of Albuquerque and willing to be part of this approach. We have authority to issue citations on city property, the city park, Tigway Park, San Luis Plaza in the back there, because we rent a space back there. I think that layered approach is going to be very successful here. We have a mobile unit that will be coming down all day long and during the night on all 3 shifts to patrol this park and Tigway Park, and then San Luis Plaza and the parking lots around it, because some of these parking lots are run by the city. We have downtown officers who are going to start briefing here. When they start their shift, they'll come here. There'll be a presence. And for the residents, I apologize if our lights are bright at night, but I think it's worth the value. And then we're going to start having our supervisors and lieutenants actually come down and do foot patrols in Old Town and around the museums and around city property. Our officers are each posted and they have a commitment to those posts, but our sergeants and our lieutenants do not. So they can come down and they can be part of this layered approach. As I said, I think this layered approach will be great and successful for Old Town. I used to have a squad of officers down here, and I was just telling Pete how well the vendors took care of us when I was a patrol sergeant down here. Every Christmas they fed my officers. So it's time for us to pay you back. Thank you.
Now, with a little bit more on some of especially the speed cameras, we're going to bring up our Director of essentially Public Works, but that includes cameras, Jennifer Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. At the Department of Municipal Development, we're always looking for new ways to design, build, and maintain streets that are safe for all users. And one of our tools in that effort is our automated speed enforcement camera program. And I'm here to provide a little data to show that they're making a real difference in reminding drivers to slow down. Slowing down traffic in Albuquerque is key to keeping Albuquerque safe, because up to 25% of crashes with injuries are caused by speeding drivers. I have an 11-year-old son who's now biking to middle school for the first time, and I'm worried. I'm worried about speeding drivers, but as he bikes to school. But I'm confident that with the enhanced, expanded use of speed cameras, that will help keep him safe. Just a 10% drop in speed can reduce the number of crashes by 19%. And right now around the city we have 20 automated speed enforcement cameras, and over the last 2 years at every single one of those cameras we've seen a significant drop in speed. Specifically, all cameras have seen between a 42% and 89.2% decrease in drivers exceeding the posted speed limit by 10 miles per hour. And all 20 cameras have also seen up to an 8.5 mile per hour decrease in average driver speed. So those are big numbers. I'm always asked, how do you pick your locations? Our location selection is data driven and are prioritized by our high fatality and injury network map and community input. And again, reducing speeds even by 1 mile per hour can result in a 17% decrease in fatal crashes. So Over the last 2 years, we've issued over 213,000 citations that have helped slow people down, and the money from the program, it actually goes to fund other projects to keep all road users safe. In fact, right now, our automated speed enforcement citations are funding a transportation safety program project on Louisiana that we're building right now, and some of you might have seen it. It's between Gibson and Central, and it involves bike lanes to, again, slow folks down and protect our bike users. So we're not stopping here. The 20 cameras that have been really successful, as Mayor mentioned, we're working to expand the program to add additional cameras, and we're encouraging City Council to approve the award of a new contract to expand the program to a new vendor. So again, to close, the numbers we're seeing show that drivers are safer and slowing down through our speed camera program, and we're looking forward to expanding it. Thank you.
All right, and we're so fortunate to be joined by some folks from the community, and want to first bring up JJ Mancini. Come on up.
Hello everyone, my name is JJ Mancini. I am the president of the Historic Old Town Association. So first I just want to, I guess, recognize the obvious that we're all coming together because of a couple of businesses have experienced something, we'll call it an exorbitant amount of distress. So I would first like to just say, hey, community, let's see if we can support, yes, both Old Town community and the community at large, the city of Albuquerque. Let's come down, support those businesses. Over the past year, we've had a bunch of businesses who've been hurt by arson, by vandalism, etc. So one of the ways that we can support them is just come down here and rediscover Old Town again. So that's one big calling. Second, I want to say thank you to the mayor, say thank you to Chief of Police, thank you to APD. In all honesty, from our perspective, this has been a cry. We just want additional attention for quite some time. And so a huge thank you for responding to that. We can't tell you, it's a partnership, right? The people of Old Town came together about 3 years ago, and we started up a very unique association. What's unique about it, it's no longer representing just merchants or just property owners or these separate associations. We have one association that actually represents everyone. Merchants, property owners, residents. And what's unique about this, it's the first time in Albuquerque's 317 years of existence where something like this has existed, which means now everyone has buy-in. Everyone has a say here in Old Town. And I can't tell you about the power of community coming together, the things that we've been able to accomplish. I would venture to say that the reason why you are all here right now is because of the power of that community, because of the power of that organization. So thank you to those who volunteer. None of us get paid for it. We spend hundreds and hundreds of hours every year because we care about Old Town. We care about Albuquerque. And I'd also like to say, it's working. So yay, way to go us. And also too, it's not just a good defense. Yes, we came together. We started hiring private security. Last year we spent almost $25,000 to $30,000 raised by local businesses here to be able to hire private security so that we can make Old Town safe. So I want to make sure that what you're taking away from this is not, oh no, Old Town is on fire, although it literally was a few nights ago. But on the contrary, Old Town actually is very safe. And there's a reason why it's vibrant, and there's a reason why businesses want to come down here. In fact, we like to say that we have one of the highest concentrations of local businesses in all of New Mexico. We have over 170 businesses right in this area. If you think about that, that's like a rail yards every single day, 365 days a year, right here. So, in fact, if you were a vendor at the rail yards, generally when you've made a lot of money, you're ready to upgrade, where do you go? Old Town. So, hey, local Albuquerque residents, come to Old Town. We'd love you to rediscover. If you haven't been here in a few years, it has changed. And then one thing I want to add too is just about the vibrancy of what we've done. So yes, we want a good defense, but there's also the side of an offense. What I mean by that is, if we can make Old Town more vibrant, those difficult situations become diluted. And so one of the things that we've done, we have an events committee, we have a beautification and function committee, once again, all volunteers doing outstanding work. Last year, we came up with the goal of creating culturally significant events in Old Town. One of the things that we did is we started a Dia de los Muertos celebration event in Old Town. It's a 10-day event that, of course, happens between the end of October. I think this year it's October 28th through November 3rd. Huge calling to get everyone in Albuquerque to come check this out if you haven't already. We had tens of thousands of people come to the event. We have something called the Marigold Mile, where we have probably this year maybe more than 3 or 4 miles of marigold garland that decorate all of Old Town. Papel picado becomes a very vibrant atmosphere. We create an ofrenda in the gazebo right behind us, where a couple of schools come together and create this, fantastic ofrenda to remember the loved ones who have passed. So we want to invite everyone in Albuquerque, tell your friends, tell your family members, come and experience it. This year we're even going to take it up to the next level. So come and rediscover Old Town and see where community works and where vibrancy exists again. So with that said, thank you.
Well, it's a good reminder we've been doing this for 300 plus years, and we're going to keep doing it for another 300. Thank you, JJ. And we're also, it's in many ways a small town, as we know, in Albuquerque. And our next guest, of course, owns several different awesome businesses. And in a fun connection, it was also my dad helped build your building. And it's like his most proudest accomplishment, which makes me particularly love your building. So come on up, Pete Caceres, also our former state chief of police.
Said I'd never get behind a podium again, and here I am. As the mayor alluded to, I'm a business owner here in Old Town, Outpost 1706 in Plaza Don Luis. I used to, when I did press conferences with the state police, I dreamed of doing them in shorts and a t-shirt, and here I am. Well, but I'm not the state police chief anymore. I'm just like a lot of folks out there. I'm a civilian, and I'm frustrated. I want action, and talk is cheap, and I got that. When I was the chief, a lot of people talked about what they can't do. It's all about, to me, what you can do with the resources you have. I'm not putting all this on the mayor's shoulders, city council, the legislature, and Chief Medina, especially Chief Medina. He can't solve all these problems. Old Town needs to step up, and we did. We organized. We were able to share a lot of information. We were able to put up our own systems or camera systems to feed in APD. But it wasn't enough. We still have significant issues here. We want to keep it the way it is, right? Exactly the way it is. This city, like many major cities, faces in my opinion, 3 issues: fentanyl, mental illness, and repeat offenders. Those 3 issues. And until we combat that head on and figure out what to do with it, it's a difficult uphill battle. I will give the city this much. For a year we've been talking about it, and now it seems like definitely the folks behind me are stepping up. They're invested in it, but the reality is that they're pulled to 20 different directions in this city. We're vocal. We as an Old Town merchants, property owners, people that live here. I live in Old Town. Not only do I own a business, I live right here in the middle of Old Town. I see this stuff every day, and we're not going to give up. And we appreciate the partnership with the city. I'm glad that in several conversations with the chief, we're able to put the cameras down here. I know there's been some criticism about what do cameras actually do. Do they prevent crime? Probably not in this day and age, but they certainly help the city follow up with who did that crime. A great example of the police work that was done when they broke into our bar. They caught the individual. When someone pulled a knife on me, APD caught that individual, right? And just recently, when they burnt this a business down, APD caught that individual. Guess what, though? At least the first 2, they're out in 2 days. Makes no sense to me. This is only Pete Caceres' commentary. The courts need to step up. We need to figure out what to do, and the legislature needs to help us with that. Keep these folks in jail that need to be there. The guy that broke into our bar had 21 prior arrests. Makes no sense to me. I understand a second chance, but not a 21st. Things look promising. Again, Old Town is vibrant. We're getting ready for several different events, especially Balloon Fiesta. We don't want people showing up from all over the world, seeing boarded up windows and burnt out businesses and crime scene tape. I can tell you that Chief Medina is committed to it. The mayor's committed to it. Sometimes it's an awkward dance with former chiefs and people from the community screaming and yelling, but that's sometimes what we need to do. And I for one, appreciate the effort that's been made. I just want to make sure it continues and it's consistent. It doesn't go away in a week, and that's what we're looking for. And it sounds like it won't. So thank you all for really stepping up. Appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you so much for that. And I think one of your first events is Hispanic Heritage Month. Starts in September, just a couple of weeks, and traditionally, of course, starts where it should, right on the gazebo at Old Town. So I think we do have some time for Q&A, so I'll hand it over to you, Francesca.
All right, if you guys could state who you're with, your name, and who your question is for, and we'll call them up. Let me start with me right here. Go ahead, Peter.
Howdy, Peter from downtown Albuquerque News for the mayor.
Mayor.
Mayor?
Yeah, we're just hiding from the sun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
No problem.
I'm listening.
Well, so the civilian patrols you talked about here today and that were mentioned in the letter your office sent out last night, items 1 and 2, will those continue daily in perpetuity? And the APD patrol that you mentioned here today, is that also a daily and in perpetuity thing?
So I'll give a high level, and then we have our experts who can mention detail. One of the things we're trying to do all over the city is this notion of a layered response. This is what we announce on our bus system, where we have like 4 different agencies enforcing codes. So the answer is, in general, yes, we want to continue this and expand the perimeter of a city facility to protect the area around it. Now, mechanically, staffing, hiring, all of those things do make it hard, or else we would have already done it. So I think it's going to take a while, but we want it to stick. Anything else you guys want to add? All right.
Jessica Barron, reporter with Channel 13. I actually have another question for you, Mayor. This Tuesday, you talked about people going around setting historical buildings on fire. Could you expand on that? Like, how many times have you seen it, and where, and why is this problem more concerning than just random vandalism? Could you repeat the question?
Sure. The question is about this specific issue around historical buildings being vandalized and especially lit on fire. And so this is, I think, important to separate, right? What you heard from the business owners is, look, basically business is really good down here. The challenge is at night. And so that has also happened downtown. We have this issue where things will be pretty good during the day, and then at night we get this vandalism. And look, it's the intersection of 3 things. Number one, we're not casting specific judgment, but in general, some of these folks are dealing with mental and behavioral health issues, whether it's addiction or whether it's mental health from addiction or anything in between. And we know they may have housing challenges too. That's why they're out on the street. And so we also know that, especially when it comes to fentanyl, the kind of things that you do when we see sort of the person, not in control of their own self, it drives itself towards breaking windows. This is happening all over the country. And then there seems to be a fixation with fire. This started this winter where we saw the number of arsons like quadrupled in a month. And it wasn't just because it was cold. So it's all of those things coming together. And the last thing is, our older historic buildings, unfortunately, they tend to have less security cameras that actually work well because of the old wiring and all of these other challenges. And they also tend to be on the street because, when you build a good community, you put the window front on the street. And we try and do that as a city. But we also know a lot of people don't do that because then their windows get broken, right? Most of the historic buildings have their windows right out front. So it's a very long answer to a complicated question that is just straight up true. There are more windows being broken and more fires being started in cities all across America because of those reasons.
Julian.
I guess this could either be for you, Chief, or for you, Mayor. But just, you guys mentioned the frequency of possible patrols, ACS being involved in the community to patrol the area. How often can people see that, and when do you think we will start to see it? Will you do that?
They actually already started with Albuquerque Police Department at night, and they had been ongoing. We're just increasing the frequency. We're not going to put an exact time, obviously, like every hour on the hour they will be driving here. It'd also be kind of pointless for us to do that, and the criminals know, like, hey, we got these other 45 minutes to be there. But they are required to log out when they're here and let dispatch know that they are driving through the area. And there's a few other things that we'll be able to do to show how much time that they do spend here, and a coordinated effort amongst everybody. Like, I think Director Duran was talking about, they're going to frequent here a lot more during the day and their nighttime hours. So there will be a visible increase. I won't put an exact number on it, but we will be accountable to how much time we do spend here in the future.
Let me just get through media and then we'll move over to community, okay? Go ahead, Monica.
Hi, Monica Logroño, before. My question would be better suited for Chief Medina, but you guys let me know. So the press release mentioned crime-fighting technology, and from what I heard, it was mainly just the camera units. So I was just wondering if there's any other technology. If it's just the mobile crime units and the camera units, and then patrols. Is there anything else?
So there's really three. There's actually four. So there's gunshot detection. There are fixed cameras, which we're investing in. And then there are mobile cameras. And then there are automated speed cameras. And actually there's five. And there's license plate readers. Yeah.
And then when will the wiring get in? Because I know that was it's going to take some time. Is there any timeline on when we could see the permanent cameras?
The permanent cameras, there's two sets of permanent cameras. We've just, GSD has notified us that we are going to have cameras before the permanent cameras that are permanent. They're going to be temporary cameras that are able to be put up because there's power in the area. So yes, we're waiting to put live feed cameras that would hook into fiber, but we do have other cameras that are coming in that are going to be here temporarily also. Is that about right?
Any other media? Jessica?
Could you speak on how many cameras are probably going to be available? You said that you'd be helping some of the businesses pay for some of those cameras that will be connected to the real-time crime center.
We don't have an exact number on the cameras yet. We do have 2 mobile camera systems here, and as we've learned, we've installed cameras in lots of parts of the city. We do an evaluation. We figure out if there's enough cameras or if there's areas that we're missing, and sometimes we have to add other cameras. So we will do an evaluation to see how our initial round of cameras goes, and that will let us determine more or less how many cameras will have to be in the area.
Let's go. Wilfredo, did you have one? No? Okay. Peter.
Mayor, you've been doing a fair amount of contemplation recently about the city's relationship with the downtown core. Has any of that informed or changed your views on the city's relationship with Old Town?
That's a really good question. And we can take sorry. I can also stick around if folks want to ask questions, but you can take a few from the public too. Okay. I was thinking the same thing while I was standing here. So the answer is yes, contemplating, what would be special and helpful for Old Town structurally, right? We announced that downtown we're doing a tax increment financing district. We announced that we're doing a business improvement district. And all of those are subject to council approval. So just want to remind everyone, we have 2 branches of government, and technically 3, but you get my point. So you'll learn that you'll meet the 3rd branch at city if you get one of those speeding tickets, which is hearing officers. So, look, I think I'd love to discuss it and think about it. It certainly is something we want to start and make sure that it works. But if other areas of town, if it's helpful, totally open to it. It's probably something we should discuss coming up in the winter.
We'll move into community over here. Go ahead, ma'am.
So I'd like to know how all of these measures are in some way working with finding housing for the unsheltered population that is increasing every day in Old Town. And that's part of the problem. They may not be committing all the crimes, but there's a lot in the atmosphere that prevents us from feeling safe and businesses from doing the best work they can.
Yeah. Fundamentally, right, if you're unhoused, the answer is a house. I mean, at some point in the system, you've got to acknowledge that. So I really appreciate your question. First, would love to invite you to the State of the City at the Zoo tomorrow night, because I'm going to spend at least half the speech on this question. But as a little bit of an example, we need about 20,000 houses in Albuquerque, or apartments. We'll use the term houses, casitas, whatever. 20,000. And here's what we announced just this week. We're adding 300 new units up and down Central. And we're adding 400 new units at our transit center in Uptown. And we've added 1,000 units over the last few years. But think about this for a second. That sounds like I just dropped a lot of numbers. Basically, I told you we're adding about 3,000 units to a 20,000 unit problem. So This is a huge problem, and that is why it is going to take all of us, meaning the private sector, real estate developers, they're realizing that there's value in this. So we made the zoning easier to build casitas and to build multi-layered apartments. We also need, whether it's city, county, and state government, all to focus on that. Because right now we're doing a lot, but it's not enough. So we literally have to push that pedal down. And that's what our whole community's got to do. And the city is going to be working on doing our part starting tomorrow.